Hello, welcome, happy day, happy, wonderful, grand, glorious, great, and magnanimous day. How grateful I am to have you all here. Welcome to Rise Up, Evolutionary Conversations. And man, do we have an amazing, powerful, spiritual, beautiful, excellent, creative, talented, loving individual here with us today, Miss Suzi Lula. I'm so grateful, and I can't wait to introduce you more, Suzi. But while we're getting people on really quickly, I want to just tell everybody out there, while Suzi sits so patiently right there, I want to tell everybody about Rhythmia and what's going on here. We are open. Hey, Cash, good to see you, brother. I'm glad to see you.
Cash!
Yeah,
Hi,
right?
Cash! One of my favorite Rhythmia guests. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you already, John Jacob.
No, it's perfect. Oh, it's so good.
I was just saying to John Jacob, wouldn't it be cool if some of the people that I had met when I've taught at Rhythmia were on, and here you are. These are the kind of people that go to Rhythmia. Like,
answer prayer. Even while they're asking, I am already answering, right? The answer is made. Thank you. Hey, Brother Cash. Yes, you know what? You're not interrupting. It's all perfect. A little bit just about Rhythmia, folks, is we are open. We've been open since November. We reopened in November, and here it is, almost June. And it's, as they say on the surf in Costa Rica, está pompeando, right? It's pumping, baby. It's pumping. So grateful. We have almost 70 people here this week. It is safe. You can easily get into Costa Rica. You don't have to take a COVID test. You don't have to do anything. You need to fill out a little epidemiological form, which is so easy, and get some traveler's insurance, which you'll want anyway, and you come. And then when you get here to Rhythmia, guess what? We're a medically licensed facility. That means we have a lab and microbiologists and medical doctors and registered nurses and all that here. So we give everybody a PCR test before they come on property. So everybody, when you check in, before you check in, you get tested. And so everybody on property has been tested. All the employees and staff are tested. And then while you're here, we do twice daily for guests, 3 times daily for staff, temperature checks, everybody's monitored. And so what we hear is people are so thrilled. They're thrilled because they don't have to wear a mask when they're here. They can hug, they can sit next to each other, they can go to the sauna, they can sit next to class, they can eat together. It's like pre-COVID, and it's a safe place. And then when you're ready to go back to the States, you need a COVID test to get back into the States. Don't worry, because we're a medically licensed facility. We have a lab right here. We test you here. You don't have to worry about it. And the results are ready when you're at the airport. Simple, easy peasy. Come down, awaken to your miracles, merge with your soul. And we're going to be talking about this today. Soul care is Suzi's new language, or languaging that we love. So, okay, I've talked enough. Suzi Lula, let me just tell you about this amazing being. Are you ready? Are you ready to hear something that you already know about yourself? But it's always good to know how beautiful. This is what I know about this talented and loving and caring and genuine and authentic individual, that she has devoted her life to God, and that she has devoted her life to being more than a beneficial presence on the planet, but to be of service in every way, fully used. This is an individual who is truly allowing Spirit to use her to a magnificent end. Okay, that's my little bit. Let me tell you what her official bio says. Sought after spiritual therapist, very true. Wisdom teacher, true. Speaker and best-selling author of The Motherhood Evolution, How Thriving Mothers Raise Thriving Children. And she has amazing child. She is an expert in the field of human transformation and spiritual psychology. Suzi has a deep understanding of the nature of therapeutic change and knows how to affect profound inner healing. And I have experienced it myself. And those of you who know her from Rhythmia have experienced it. And those of you who know her from Agape have experienced it. And she is truly compassionate and sensitive. A visionary leader, she challenges conventional thinking indeed. And the conventional thinking that says that mothers must sacrifice themselves in order to be good mothers. Suzi provides a new vision of motherhood, giving us permission to thrive, taking us from overwhelm and exhaustion to a life overflowing with joy. I don't think you have to be a mother to want to know how to move from overwhelm to a life lived in thriving joy. Suzi, you are a gift, and we are so grateful. She's married to her best friend and inspirational singer-songwriter, my brother, Jamie Lula, and mom to their 17-year-old aspiring filmmaker, Will, who's an amazing kid, and 2 dogs, Goody and Zoe. So we're here, walking the path, Suzi, Lula, and guess what? She's an amazing pianist as well. Oh, we'll talk about that later. Okay, Suzi, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be with you, JJ.
It's a thrill to have you. And you know those moments when, whenever I think of you, there's an opening in my heart. There's a smile on my face. However, the contrast has faded a little bit until I saw you and we connected on this call prior to our call, and just the love, the expansiveness. I'm just so thrilled to see you and remember how magnificent it is to be in communion with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel the same way.
So we have so much to talk about. One of the things that I really love finding out is your story of germination, your story of growth and spiritual growth and development. And I know there's been lots of awakenings along the way. But if you could give us a sense of sort of how you got from a place where from there to here, how you got to this place of living this life, and not only living this life in love, in God, but and expressing your gifts and talents, and being engaged to a level of being able to share that with others and walk that path with others.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little insight into your own transformation?
Exactly. You know, I think you hear a feedback. Are you good on your side?
It's good on my side. If anybody else is hearing it, let us know.
Tell us on the chat. So I think, as we know, all of us are born perfect, whole, abundant, authentic, worthy, deserving, and then life happens, right? So for me, I was always aware of this yearning to be connected to something greater than the life I was being raised in. And for me in particular, you know, I did not experience a close emotional connection with my mom. And I was always yearning for that. I was longing for that. I'm going to say I was desperate for that emotional connection. And it just seemed like I was not getting it, you know, and I was hungry for it. I was starving for it. I felt like I was being raised in a desert where she spoke one language and I spoke another language. She spoke one language and I was saying, just, I want some water. I want a drink of water. Where's the oasis, you know? And that was my journey for a long time, of feeling very disconnected from this, you know, maternal, nurturing, nourishing thing that I was craving. And, you know, it was actually out of that pain and feeling so lost. I look back and I think I was just lost. It was from that deep pain of feeling separate, of feeling disconnected, of feeling abandoned, of feeling rejected, of feeling not worthy of my mom's attention and connection, that actually springboarded me onto a spiritual practice, you know, and onto a spiritual teaching and life immersed in this. Because like I said, I was so hungry for that particular connection, but instead I realized I needed to find it in my own self and in my own way. So I learned to meditate when I was 16. I went to Europe. I got on my spiritual path really as a teenager, and it was really out of pain and hunger for inner peace, and to know that I was enough, and to know that I was worthy, and to know that my life mattered. You know, so I don't know if any of you can relate, but it was my pain that brought me to my awakening, really. It was my pain that brought me to this path. And then I think, you know, you've heard the saying too, he or she who has been gifted much is required and you're responsible for. But I also say, you know, to he or she who has experienced deep pain, the spiritual ramifications of that pain is absolutely extraordinary, you know. I have found that and so much more being on a spiritual path. I have found inside of myself my own deep sense of connection that I was always longing for. I feel it every day now, most of the days.
Yes, right. Okay, I do have to admit, I was trying to get these headphones on. Did it help with the feedback?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. One of the things that, as you were speaking, this sort of split, right? We talk a lot about the split here at Rhythmia.
Yes.
And this split of that you experience first from that sort of separation from the love of the mother that you so sincerely craved and desired, right? And from that, there was pain, right? And so this just, you're so familiar with the Rhythmia teaching, and I love the way you spoke about that because it dovetails so nicely with what we talk about here, that split and then the unification, right? Yes. So you begin meditating and that, can you share us a little bit more about the unification as you came back to realizing that sense of wholeness that you walk in?
I learned Transcendental Meditation. TM was my first form of meditation, and it was really excellent for me because it gave me a mantra. Because I find that when people sometimes start a meditation practice, it's very challenging to sit there and try to quiet a busy mind. So that was very helpful to me. And I believe that and my own spiritual teachings, finding agape, really immersing myself. I really believe in immersing ourselves with like-minded people. Again, why Rhythmia community is so invaluable, because like with JJ, these are friends that we now have for life. When you go through an experience together of recognizing that splintering and unifying together, not only within yourself, obviously the deepest place and the only place we really can do it is within ourselves, but to do it in community. You and I are lifelong friends. We will be, lifelong friends. So when we splinter, it's why I call it, and hopefully we'll talk about this later, but I'm a big advocate of what I call and what I've coined soul care rather than self-care, right? Because when we splinter, and if and when we are able to unify, excuse me, it is because we can begin to identify ourselves not from our wounding, but as a spiritual being, as a soul, and learning to care for that soul on a physical level, a mental, emotional level, a spiritual level, is what allows us. Sometimes I have this little handy dandy tool, teaching prop that I use often. The way I think about it is that we're born like a golden cord of consciousness. We're born innocent and pure. And then, like you said, we splinter, right? And I call it sometimes what happens to us is experiences in our life are like a knot in consciousness. Beautiful. So like my experience with my mom was like a knot in my consciousness. I'm still a spirit, but I was doing everything to try to get her attention, her approval, her love. I played the piano, as you said, always trying to win the next competition, these external ways of thinking that would dissolve this knot, right? What happens when we splinter is that we begin to lose our identification with, oh, I'm the golden cord of consciousness. I'm a spirit. I'm a soul having this experience. I'm perfect having this experience. I'm just here to learn and grow. And what happens is we forget we're that, and we focus so much on the knot. And then we think, I am the knot. I am the splintering. Oh, I must not be enough. Oh, I must not be worthy because this thing keeps happening, right? But why I call it soul care is because when we begin to take care of our soul and say, I am a spiritual being, and that is through meditation, through all these different spiritual practices, having a human experience, I can then identify myself as the cord of consciousness, as golden, as perfect, as whole. And then that allows this knot to begin to dissipate and shed. And then we know ourselves again to be this. And it's an experience. I'm not going to deny that that was an experience.
Right.
I don't bypass it, but I don't identify myself as it anymore. That's the coming together when you know yourself as a soul.
That resonates so deeply with the experience of the medicine, right? For so many people, right? This is that medicine of seeing that knot, that knot is that thing that we think we need to, or it is that experience that then causes us to think we need to be something else in order to avert those feelings of unworthiness and not enoughness and lack and limitation and limited thinking. And so we live this life almost like acting, right?
Yes.
This whole other persona.
Yes.
And it feels so, and then we get to a point where it just feels counterfeit. It's like a counterfeit currency.
Yes.
And it's no longer viable. You know,
Right.
we get to this point where, like you said, I mean, as Reverend Michael so beautifully says, pushed by pain or pulled by a vision. And you expressed how that pain had really pushed you to transform.
Exactly. And then when you get a taste of the vision, oh my goodness, another reason why I love soul care, because when you get a taste of, oh my gosh, I've been thinking I was this not. I've been thinking I was not enough. I've been thinking that I'm unworthy. Oh my goodness, I'm actually not that at all. When you get when I got a taste of that,
yes,
my entire life, I devote my life now to assisting everyone in my path to wake up, right? Because I want to pay it forward. If I can have this awakening coming from such a painful place, then I know every person on planet Earth, no matter what your situation or circumstance is, no matter how dire you think it is, no matter how convinced that you think you are this rope, I know that if I can do it, anybody can do it. If I can awaken, anyone can awaken. And that's what keeps me so passionate about my work, is to want to see a planet full of individuals awakened to their soulship, to their spiritual self, embracing the experiences that happen in life, but not identifying them, and to collectively wake up together.
Okay, I want to follow up on that, but I also want to just give a shout out to Liz and Marion and Dorota,
Bernie.
hello, and Bernie, yeah.
Bernie was there when I was there too.
Look, they're all coming in, Susie. They're all coming in. I put something up by accident. Hi, Mia. Hi to Mia also. Let me get that. All sorts of stuff has happened on. Yes.
Hi, Liz. Hi, Mia.
Yes. Hello. Thank you all for joining us. So we've talked about the pain, the trauma, right? That has people feel a sense of separation. And yet what do you say to those who say, you know what, I'm good. Like life's pretty good. Like I'm successful. I have kids and a family and everything's pretty good. I don't really, I'm not traumatized.
Yes. Okay. I want to say two things.
Yeah.
One, I just want to complete on the pain, although are we ever really complete on the pain? I just want to say one more thing about,
yes, please.
If any of you are in pain, if any of you are contemplating coming to Rhythmia, if any of you are seeking for that something, I just want you to know, the other thing I love about this knot is that if you're in the midst of pain, just know that right there in the midst of a knot is an opening, right? As Rumi says, right, the light is where it enters the wound. So I want you to know that no matter how much pain you're in, there's light coming through, that you are still the knot, you are still the golden cord, right? I want you to know that. And then to your point about when you get a taste of it and then you say, you know, my life's good. I'm not really having any trauma. I'm good. I'm thriving. Well, okay. That, my friend, is when you really dive into the deep end, right? Because we live in an infinite universe. There's no ceilings. There's no limitation. So no matter how good your life is, no matter how much you are thriving, no matter how abundant you are, no matter how prosperous you are, you know, you and I, John Jacob, we're intimate, we're connected. We have a good history and friendship and relationship, and everyone that we know from Rhythmia, it's like, we have a good life. I have a good life, right? And it's just the tip of the iceberg of what is possible for us to experience while we're in the body. Yes. So if you don't have trauma, it doesn't matter. That's why you hear the darkness and the light are both the same to thee, because it doesn't matter if you're in darkness. I'm telling you, the light is available to you if you're in the darkness. And I'm telling you, if you are in the midst of like the brightest chapter of sunshine in your life, the brightest light possible, you're infused with it, you're immersed in it, it's still infinite. You're still at the tip of the iceberg of what this friendly universe has in store for you. What we're in this body for like just a nanosecond. Right. So we just want to make it as rich as humanly possible, as spiritually possible while we're in the body. So there's more of wherever you find yourself, you know, if you're thriving already.
I'm just so in love with you, sister. I just love you so much. Like, you are such good medicine. You're such good medicine, like the Suzi medicine, just you expressing. I'm just thrilled. Thank you. I actually now want to go back to the pain, because I thought something came through while you were talking. Do you know the story of Alexander the Great and the Gordian knot?
No.
Okay, so this will be so great to add to your golden cord teaching. Right? So the Gordian knot, and I might be missing some nuances of the story because it's been a while. It just came back to my memory. But the Gordian knot, there was like a king in Russia, I believe, back in the day, right? And there was a knot, literally a knot called the Gordian knot that nobody could untie.
Untangle.
Right? Untangle. And he had his daughter was, for the hand of his daughter, if anyone could untangle the knot, they would win the king's daughter. And if you failed, you know, it was like, it was you want to try it? You sure you know how to do it? So many failed. And then Alexander the Great, I believe it was Alexander the Great, right, comes and he accepts the challenge of the Gordian knot. And you know what he did?
What?
He took out his sword and he cut it.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
And that's what we do, right? That's what the medicine does. That's what the teachings at Agape do. That,
compassion does.
It's what love does, right? Yes. And this is why spiritual practitionership, this is why coming to Rhythmia, this is why seeing a spiritual practitioner is so different than traditional therapy, which works. But I like to say it's like, a spider web has these anchors, right? And then the spider goes around and weaves the web on the anchors. And so like psychotherapy is going to like, here, that happened when I was 5, and then this happened in grade school, and then I was at prom and this happened. And you go to each one of these little instances and you kind of unravel those little knots where the spider web meets the anchors. But working with a spiritual practitioner, working on this cellular level, working with the plant medicine, it just takes out the anchor. It just cuts the anchor, the whole thing.
Very good.
Right?
Yes. That's why I consider myself a spiritual therapist, or spiritual psychologist, spiritual psychology, because from the spiritual context, traditional therapy works on the mind and the emotions and the physical level, right? So it works on the psyche. But the original definition of the psyche is to breathe. It's about the breath. It's about being connected to the breath, and that's all about spirit. So if you work on untangling these knots, but you don't work on them in the context of a spiritual context or a soul context, a larger context, you're going to unravel them, but you may learn the lessons again, or you may not ever really set your soul free, set your spirit free to do what it is that you came here to do, because each one of us has a unique destiny, has a unique dharma, has a unique purpose, has a unique contribution. And that's part of, yes, part of it is to untangle these knots, but part of it is to connect with who it is you truly are. Each one of us has come imbued with a purpose and gifts and offerings and contributions. And I like to say our soul really will never rest until we've given of the gifts that we have come here to give. That's part of that esoteric, the pain pushes until the vision pulls. That's why people who manifest and have lots of money around them and lots of success around them. And, I have clients, they have Academy Awards on their shelf, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they've connected to their soul dharma and their purpose and what makes them unique and what has gotten them out of their own prison cell to liberate them. So the spiritual context is what will provide that. And I just need to say hi to Nani. I'm looking at everybody who's in the chat. Hi, Liz. Yeah. I'm knowing for you, you are going to make yourself get to arrhythmia. I'm saying to Nani, so you can see the top of my head. It's an inside joke. She's been the only person brave enough to tell me that when I do all these podcasts and teachings, that this is how I usually am. And no one else has ever told me that. So I'm shout out to Nani. I fixed my whole chair because, she's like, Suzi, what? I'm like, is it because my forehead is rather large? I don't know. So hi to everybody. Bernie, Cash, Liz.
Oh my God.
Nani's my girl. You gotta have your people that have your back, and they'll tell you the things you need to hear, right? Whether it's, and I saw somebody's here from Australia also. So hi to Australia. But you have to have your people, right? I value and treasure the people who tell me, like, I'm teasing because it's like the top of my head. It seems, like a simple thing, but, I do value the people that might say to me, I don't know, open your eyes of how you're, I'm making this up, but how you're relating in your marriage or in your parenting. I mean, we need those honest people. And I think that's part of why I love teaching and bringing people together in community so we can be honest and transparent. So I digress.
Not at all. It's so beautiful. Now, I want to make sure we fully covered what you wanted to around the soul, around your soul care, because that was such a beautiful teaching. Is there more around that?
Well, I mean, we could do a whole week at Rhythmia on soul care, a whole week on soul care. But let me just get still for a moment. I like to say that soul care is the new self-care, because everyone has heard of self-care and they think it's mani-pedis and they think, which is, not a bad thing, massages and workouts and all of that. That's physical level. But I think soul care is back to what you were talking about and the way it's taught at Rhythmia, the way I teach it with the golden cord. We splinter. And it is through caring for the soul, seeing ourselves as spiritual beings, soul beings, learning how to nourish and care for ourselves on the spiritual level, on the mental, emotional, and physical level, right? So that's what plant medicine does as well. It's a physicalized way. It's Mother Earth. It's taking a part of Mother Earth and it's assisting through physical means to reunite us in spirit. So another part of my teachings around soul care has to do with self-compassion. I say that self-compassion is the medicine for all wounds.
Yes.
Self-compassion is the medicine for all wounds. So if you are experiencing anything in your life, and even if you aren't, right? To those people who are thriving, what I was longing for from my mother, and I was looking externally because I thought a mother should provide this, but compassion is a quality of the feminine. Compassion is an embrace. It is a nurturing. It is a nourishment. So when you are experiencing, I'm experiencing, things in life, when things happen, and you can apply your own heart, your own love, your own compassion, your own empathy, your own loving kindness, your own seeing yourself, allowing yourself to be seen, allowing those wounds to be held, that is what helps them to dissipate. In the reason I say that compassion is the medicine for the wound is because it is the act of compassion. And that's why Mother Ayahuasca, like that's the language of compassion, right? So when the quality of the mother, and I see now, and all of you, I can guarantee you, if you really look back at your own, quote, wounding, your own experiences of life, I can utterly guarantee you that you will see that your greatest wounding has led you to your greatest teaching. Your greatest wounding leads you to your greatest contribution. The longing that I had for compassion for my mother has ignited in me. I'm obsessed with self-compassion. Like I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with helping people to untangle that for themselves. And I know it's possible, right? And Liz is saying I'm able to do this with others, but being compassionate with myself is really hard. And I have a course, I have a bunch of online courses, and one of them is called Learning the Language of Self-Compassion. And to Liz's point, this is very normal. I hear this from many clients and individuals. It's so easy. It's so easy for me to have, if John Jacob came to me, if you come to me with something, I just like, it's a no-brainer. It just happens, right? But the things that I'm going through in my life, I can say things to myself like, oh my gosh, you've been having this story for, Jamie and I just did a 5-mile hike, and I literally said out loud to him, are you tired of hearing me talk about this yet? Because we can normalize a way of speaking to ourselves that I would never speak to you. I would never speak to Cash. I would never speak to Liz. I would never speak to Nani, right? I would never speak to Jamie. But we normalize that. Why? Because people spoke to us that way. Society spoke to us that way. Culture spoke to us that way. Conditioning spoke to us that way. So we've internalized this way of speaking. So why I teach learning the language of self-compassion is that we haven't learned. It's literally like if you show up in Paris and no one taught you French, right? Or even more so, you show up in Russia or Iran when even the alphabet is different than even the alphabet you were taught. It's a foreign language. So to Liz's point, self-compassion can feel like a foreign language. So you can go to my website and get that course, or you can become hungry and thirsty and interested in how to apply that to yourself, right?
So, one of the things that I know for myself personally, there's this long history of, waste no time and self-recrimination, be gentle with yourself, self-care. We've heard these things, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
You're speaking about them in a really powerful way. And yet there's that pull that I think that self-critical language that we've normalized to ourselves say, yeah, well, that's just letting yourself off the hook, right? Like you just need to get down to, just right. Like, so I'd love to know how you share.
Very good. There is a huge, massive cultural misunderstanding between compassion and condoning.
Very good.
Think about that, everyone. Massive. You've all been inoculated or indoctrined into this way of believing that compassion is condoning. Is huge misunderstanding culturally. Compassion is distinct from discerning. So when let's say that I've made a mistake, let's say let's say I'm making it up. I just want you guys to know I'm making it up. And if my husband's watching, I just want to know I'm really making this up. But I want to use a very poignant example, right? Let's say I had an affair in my marriage. Let's say I'm married and I had an affair, right? And let's say I did it secretly behind Jamie's back and he had no idea, let's just say, right? So people will ask, well, how could you have compassion for yourself? Because people think that would be taking myself off the hook, to your point, correct? However, when we think of ourselves as a spiritual being, having a human experience, learning certain things, and another teaching of mine is called the mountaintop process. It's based on Albert Einstein saying we cannot solve the problem at the level of consciousness that created the problem. So if I'm having an affair in my marriage and I'm acting out in my marriage, you can't solve that problem at the level of acting out. I need to go to the top of a mountain, see that I am a spiritual being, I'm a soul, and then I need to ask myself, what am I learning through this affair? What need was not getting fulfilled inside of me? And to have the compassion for myself to see that all of us, every single one of us, had some kind of innocent intention to whatever value or whatever outer thing we were seeking. Even, this is really hard, I get it, I know it, even when you study an anomaly like a Hitler, there was something external that he was seeking to try to get a validation, to try to, the Aryan race is superior because I feel so inferior inside of me. And I feel so desperately inferior that I have to try to get an entire planet worth of people to, right? So even it's the law is the law is the law. The physical is a reflection of the internal, right? So compassion does not condone. There's no way Hitler should have done what Hitler did. There's no argument and there's no disagreement. There's not condoning a behavior. If I have an affair in my marriage, it's not condoning the behavior. Compassion doesn't seek to judge or condone. Compassion is a spiritual quality, and spiritual qualities aren't dualistic, right? So condoning has to do with judgment or innocence. Right? Condoning is, and that is of the world, physical duality. Compassion simply looks through the eyes of love and says, if Suzi Lula is having an affair in her marriage, she must be hurting. Something must be ill-aligned within her. Something must be off inside of her. Let us help her awaken. So through that pain, I will awaken if I'm lucky, if I want to awaken, right? But the potential is there. So I just want you to hear both and. It's not an either or. Compassion is a both and. I offer myself compassion because I'm on the splintered. If I'm having an affair in my marriage, clearly I'm in the splintered stage of things, right? So condoning, you can have compassion without condoning is what I'm trying to say.
It's so beautifully said. My mother used to say, you have to separate the deed from the doer.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
and that's
so
very challenging.
Yes, it so is. And, you articulated it so beautifully because, Carl Jung says, the only thing that liberates is acceptance. Condemnation does not liberate.
Bingo.
And it's just so beautifully articulated by you, Suzi, so elegant.
Bingo.
And
Bingo.
It's clear.
Bingo. Let me show you one more thing real quick.
Yes,
so
please.
Let's say we're spiritual beings. Let's say I forget I'm having an affair in my marriage. Clearly, that would be a not, right? I really feel really terrible about using that example too. It just happened to come to me.
It's totally made up.
We're getting ready to have our 20-year anniversary. We're closer than ever. We've been together 20-something years. So shout out to my husband. It's just an example, Lovey. Um, but to your point about the Carl Jung, that acceptance is the only medicine, really, liberation. So let's say I'm acting out, I have a knot. Then what do? We tend to judge ourselves
Right.
for having the affair, judge ourselves for whatever, because we can't let ourselves off the hook. And then what do we have? We have two knots. You have a knot on top of a knot. And then if I shame myself, then I have a knot on top of a knot on top of a knot. And then if I say, oh my God, my son knows what I'm doing now, then I have a knot on top of a knot on top of a knot. So I've become really obsessed with compassion and acceptance. And that Carl Jung's quote is one of my favorites, because what it does is it helps me, it will help all of you to quicken your journey towards enlightenment and awakening. Because every time you judge yourself, if you become aware, holy crap, I shouldn't have said that. Holy moly, I'm putting another knot on this. That is a fast way to get yourself judgment free, because you want to get to enlightenment more quickly. You want to get to awakening more quickly. And there's nothing that will slow you down faster than self-judgment, right?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I had a lady here one week, and she went into ceremony. She was a politician. And by Wednesday, she was convinced that we were doing something to her, right? Like, everybody else is having an experience and I'm not. What kind of back alley shit are you giving me? Is what the, she goes, I want a laboratory analysis of the medicine, right? So we talk to her. I get her up to the Maloka for ceremony, and she comes out of ceremony. Then, this was Thursday afternoon, goes into Thursday night, comes out Friday morning and says, oh, I got it. Freedom is observation without judgment. And I went,
yes.
Wow, that's brilliant. Where'd you get that? She goes, I just got out of ceremony. Do you not work here? I got it from the medicine. She got it from the field, from her higher self, from that which is always expressing in such beautiful intelligence and wisdom. But that's, I think, a beautiful summation of what we're talking about. And how those knots, because Liz says, oh my God, my knot is so big.
Yes, yeah. And John is saying, this is something I need to work on. I understand it intellectually, but find it difficult to embody. And my heart goes out to you, because I think that is the part that is all of our journey, correct? We're so fortunate to have access to so much information. It's why I like to make much of my teachings and as experiential as possible, to really experience something, to take it from the intellect. So I really have empathy for what John is saying, and probably many of us. That is the journey, right? That's why you hear the longest journey is the one from our head to our heart, because to embody something is liberation. That's why your guest, she had the experience of it, so she had liberation, Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever, I love the story of the guy in the Bible who was standing next to Jesus, and by just being near someone who was so aligned, so in tune, he shouts out, I believe. And then the next minute he says, heal thou my disbelief. Right. And I just, that to me gives me such solace, because we have those moments of, oh, I see something, I understand, I got what Suzi was saying. And then boom, those old patterns come back, those old thought forms. And it's this process that we continue to shore up to that truth, but it's going to come back, and we just keep, it's just like in meditation, just keep coming back, just keep coming back.
Yeah. Yes. When you truly know the darkness and the light are both the same, it becomes irrelevant whether you're in the middle of the knot or whether you're in the middle of the light. Because when you use compassion as your medicine, when I apply compassion to a knot, it feels good. The knot dissolves, it feels good. So just stay with it, everyone. That's why JJ and I, or John Jacob and I mean, we've been doing this for 20, 30 years. Well, and I'll do it till the day I die. I mean, I'll do it I always tease, it's like, as long as I have teeth in my mouth, I'll brush them. Well, as long as I have breath in my body, I will practice this, Oh,
thank Suzi, Lula. I thank God for you. You are a beautiful, beautiful being who has shared such tremendous wisdom. Please check out Suzi's website. Suzi's teaches here at Rhythmia as well. We want to, you know, and has done so much, just who you are in the world and in our community at Agape, with all of your clients, with all of your classes, with all of your teaching. You've been so gracious today with sharing your wisdom. Is there, okay, one last question. Is there anything, like I always say, you know, don't judge another until you've walked a mile in their shoes, right? And then and then remember, once you've walked a mile in their shoes, you're a mile away and you have their shoes, so you're good. So, but if you were in my shoes, what's the question that you would ask that I didn't? Or is there something that you'd like to bring forth that wasn't asked in this time that we had together? Or is there something that you want to share about you or just about life, something that you know that you don't think enough people know that you want to share?
I don't think enough people identify ourselves on a moment by moment basis that we're spiritual beings. And we hear the phrase, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but I always amend that statement. I say, in my experience working with people, we're spiritual beings seeking to have a spiritual experience while we're on planet Earth. Because, right? Because I think that's what we're having right now. We're having a spiritual experience of intimacy and connection and inspiration and creativity and alignment and joy and abundance and possibilities and potentiality. That's a spiritual experience. So I think that we're spiritual beings seeking to have more spiritual experiences while we're doing the dishes and teaching our children their math homework and doing the seemingly mundane. So I have found that the more I immerse myself in knowing that I'm a spirit and finding the things in my life that really feed my spirit, then I bring that, you know, I have a teenager. And so, you know, it takes a little something to come to a teenager the way I want to come to him and to create the relationship I want to have with him. Because, you know, teenagers are like an animal in and of themselves. So, but the more I feed my spirit, the more Will and I have spiritual connection. He got home at 2 a.m. He just won this big award. Shout out to him. And he drove in at 2 o'clock and I popped out of bed and we're in the kitchen talking about it at 2 a.m. You know, years ago, I would have been upset that he was out so late. So a whole different me. So right? I'm seeking to have spiritual experiences while I'm here on planet Earth, right? I'm here to have spiritual experiences. So what did that look like? Connecting, you know, eating English muffins with butter and jam at 2 a.m. That was, right? Anyway, that's my
so beautiful.
Spiritual experience. Spiritual experience, spiritual experience.
Beautiful. Suzi, Lula, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for sharing yourself, your wisdom, your good medicine, and everyone who joined us. Lisa, Carol, hello. Lisa and Max and Liz and Dorota. Yes, Lisa and John. Thank you all so much.
And John and Bernie. Yeah.
Kim. And
I have Kim here. I love Kim. And I hope to see you in person soon, and all of you at Rhythmia. I'd love to come back. So
we'd love to have you. Yeah. God bless you, Suzi. God bless each of us. We're so grateful knowing that we are each guided by an infinite intelligence, surrounded and guarded by this infinite love, and sourced by a power that knows no exhaustion and is constantly supporting us. That's the way it is, and so it is. Peace and richest blessings. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Peace out.